Imagine gaming, but completely transformed. We're not just talking about playing anymore. Now it's about actually owning things inside the game, like really owning them. And for a lot of people, it's even about earning real value. This isn't just some passing trend, it feels like a fundamental shift, really reshaping how we even think about digital worlds. So today we're digging into this really powerful mix of blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, and the gaming industry. And here's something that kind of blew my mind when I first heard it. Blockchain gaming. It now accounts for more daily transactions than literally every other blockchain use case combined.
It's staggering, isn't it? The scale is just immense.
Absolutely. So our mission today is really to unpack what makes this new way of playing so unique. We want to break down the core tech making it possible, understand the economic shifts, which are pretty exciting, look at the advantages, and also, importantly, see how the industry is tackling the challenges to, build a really solid future. Let's jump in. So when we say gaming is being reimagined, what actually defines these new experiences? What's the big difference compared to, say, the games we've played for years?
Well, the absolute core concept, the really transformative part, is what we call true digital ownership. See, in traditional games, the developer basically holds all the cards, right? They control your items, your characters, maybe even virtual land you bought. But with blockchain games, players genuinely own these assets. They exist as unique, verifiable tokens on a decentralized network.
Okay, so they're actually yours.
Exactly. They're yours. They can't just be taken away. And crucially, even if the game servers disappeared tomorrow, those assets, still yours, in your wallet.
Wow. That's a huge shifting power, isn't it? From the publisher straight to the player.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It empowers players in a way we haven't seen before.
And tied into that empowerment is this idea of play to earn, or P2E. How did games like Axie Infinity really kickstart this idea that just by playing, you could earn crypto or digital items with actual real-world value?
Axie Infinity is a fascinating case study. The P2E model they pioneered, it completely changed the landscape, especially actually in developing nations. We saw this play out really dramatically during the COVID-19 pandemic. For many people in places like the Philippines and Venezuela, games like Axie became a lifeline, a serious source of income.
Really? How did that work?
Players could earn tokens, specifically Smooth Love Potion or SLP, just through regular gameplay. Then they could sell those SLP tokens for real money, helping them support their families when other economic options were limited. It showed the potential for a genuinely inclusive global digital economy.
That's incredible. Real, tangible impact. And it makes you think about what's next, maybe even more futuristic stuff like interoperability potential. Like, imagine having a cool skin for your character in one game.
And then just being able to use that same skin in a totally different game without buying it again.
Sounds a bit sci-fi, but aren't big companies like Sony already looking into this? I heard they even patented something.
They are. And yes, Sony patented an asset framework that hints at this kind of cross-platform use.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of the long-term vision for many. True digital ownership, enabling these open, connected digital worlds.
That's the dream.
Absolutely. And building on that, another really key piece that builds trust is what you could call transparent economies. Because blockchains are public ledgers, any player can actually go and verify details. Like, how rare is this item really? How are game outcomes decided? What's the transaction history for this specific digital sword or piece of land?
So no more hidden mechanics or wondering if the odds are stacked.
Exactly. It takes away that black box feeling you sometimes get in traditional games. It fosters trust between players and developers.
Yeah.
You see games like Gods Unchained, where the rarity of every single card is out there, publicly verifiable.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture of what makes these games different. But let's peek under the hood a bit. What's the actual technology powering all this? What are the key bits and pieces?
Right. At the very foundation, you've got smart contracts.
Yeah.
Think of them as self-executing agreements, written in code, living directly on the blockchain. They automatically handle things like in-game trades, distributing rewards, making sure payouts happen exactly as programmed. No need for a middleman, no need for manual checks.
Got it. So they're like the automated rule keepers.
Precisely. And if smart contracts are the rules, then non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are the actual unique items, the characters, the land, the gear we've been talking about.
Right, NFTs. They seem central to this whole ownership thing.
They are absolutely fundamental. NFTs provide that provable scarcity and verifiable ownership. You mentioned Axie Infinity. They're little creatures, the Axies. Those are NFTs. Players breed them, battle them, and because they're NFTs, they truly own them and can sell them on open marketplaces.
Makes sense. And then you need the actual money, right? The cryptocurrencies.
Exactly. These are the native tokens that fuel the economies within these games. You've got tokens like AXS, Axie Infinity shards for Axie Infinity, which also acts as a governance token, letting players vote on things, or Mayonnaise for Decentraland. These digital currencies are what players use for transactions, what they earn as rewards. They're the lifeblood of these virtual economies.
And holding all this together securely are the distributed ledgers, the blockchains themselves. How does that decentralization make things more secure than just, regular game server?
It's a massive security upgrade. Because the data, the ownership records, the transaction history, isn't stored in one central place. It's copied across potentially thousands of computers or nodes. There's no single point of failure for a hacker to target. It dramatically reduces the risk of data loss or manipulation that you see with centralized systems.
Okay, that makes sense. More resilient.
Much more. And one more exciting piece of tech we're seeing integrated is decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs.
DAOs.
All right.
How do they fit into gaming?
Some games are actually using DAOs to give the player community real governance power. Players who hold the game's token can vote on proposals about the game's development, its future direction, rule changes. It pushes player empowerment even further.
So players literally get a say in how the game evolves.
In some cases, yes. It's a really interesting development.
Okay, so we have this powerful tech stack creating these unique experiences. Let's talk more about the economics. You touched on play to earn, but how is this really shaking things up? It feels like gaming is becoming more than just a hobby for some people.
Oh, absolutely. It's become a genuine income source for many. Let's go back to Axie Infinity again, because it's such a strong example. Players earn those SLP tokens just by playing the game day to day. They can breed new Axie NFTs and sell those creatures on marketplaces, often for significant sums. And there are even tournaments with big crypto prize pools.
And you mentioned the impact in places like the Philippines.
Yes. During the pandemic especially, it was providing vital income when other options dried up.
Yeah.
The interest was just enormous.
Yeah.
Axie peaked at, over 2.7 million monthly active users. It showed the massive appeal of this model.
That's staggering. But it's not just players finding new economic opportunities, right? What about the developers? How does this change things for them?
It opens up entirely new revenue streams for developers too. One big one is royalties on secondary NFT sales.
How does that work?
So when a player sells an in-game NFT item they own to another player on a marketplace, the original developer can automatically receive a small percentage of that sale price coded into the smart contract.
Ah, so they keep earning even after the initial sale.
Exactly. It creates a much more sustainable long-term income model compared to just selling the item once. Plus, developers often hold some of their game's native token, like AXS or ANNA, so they benefit if the token's value increases as the game grows. And sometimes there are staking rewards, too. It's a much more dynamic economic model.
It's clearly getting attention. We've seen big names like Ubisoft, Square Enix expressing interest, maybe dipping their toes in, although sometimes they get pushback from traditional gamers, right? Worries about it just being a cash grab.
That's definitely a hurdle the industry is navigating. There has been some player backlash, often rooted in concerns that the earn aspect might overshadow the play or fun aspect, or just introduce unwelcome monetization.
So how is the industry responding?
I think there's a growing understanding that the game has to be fun first. The blockchain elements, the earning potential, should enhance the experience, not be the sole reason to play. And this is also why we're seeing the rise of these really immersive virtual economies in platforms like Decentraland or the Sandbox.
Right, where people buy virtual land as NFTs.
Precisely. They buy land NFTs, they build things on the land galleries, shops, event spaces, they trade other digital assets. It starts to blur the line between a game and, well, a functioning digital society with its own commerce. The fun comes from creating, socializing, and participating in that economy.
Okay, so with all these changes, let's really nail down the core advantages. What are the absolute upsides that blockchain brings to gaming?
Well, number one has to be the enhanced security and ownership we talked about. Your NFT assets have immutable ownership records on the blockchain. They can't be easily duplicated. They can't be arbitrarily taken away by the game company. And think about those server crashes, like the Call of Duty Warzone 2.0 incident in 2022 where players lost items.
Yeah, that was frustrating for a lot of people.
If those items had been NFTs, stored securely in players' own wallets, that wouldn't have happened. The items would still be safe, protected by the decentralized ledger. That's a concrete benefit.
Definitely a strong point for ownership security. What about financial inclusion and accessibility? How does crypto gaming really open doors?
This is huge. It allows people to participate who who might not have access to traditional banks. Think about the billions of unbanked people globally. It provides earning opportunities that aren't tied to your geographic location. A talented player in Southeast Asia can potentially earn the same value for their skills or assets as someone in North America. It creates these borderless markets for digital goods and services. It's a democratizing force, really.
Making the digital economy more global and accessible.
Exactly. And then there's transparency and fairness.
How does that play out in practice?
Because of the public ledger, you get that verifiable item rarity we mentioned. You know exactly how scarce something is. You get transparent transaction histories. You can see where an item came from, who owned it before. Plus, the rules in those smart contracts. They're usually open for anyone to audit and examine. This builds a much higher level of trust. Fewer hidden mechanics, less wondering if the game is rigged against you. It fosters a fairer environment overall.
Okay, those are some compelling advantages. But like any new technology, especially one moving this fast, there have to be challenges, right? How is the industry dealing with the inevitable hurdles?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely challenges being actively worked on. One of the most obvious early on was market volatility. Cryptocurrencies, as we know, can have significant price swings. Take AXS, the Axie token. It went from, over $94 in late 2021 down to under $10 by early 2023.
Wow, that's a huge drop. That must impact players relying on P2E income.
For sure. It created instability for players whose earnings were directly tied to that token price. But, this is also part of a market finding its feet. It's pushed developers to think harder about more sustainable in-game economic models, better tokenomics, things that aren't solely reliant on speculative price increases.
Right, building more resilient systems. What about the tech itself? Getting started can seem complicated, right? Setting up crypto wallets, paying transaction fees. I hear Ethereum fees could get pretty high, and just handling the scale of potentially millions of players.
Yeah, technical barriers and complexity were definitely significant hurdles, especially early on. The user experience wasn't always smooth.
So what's being done about that?
A lot, actually. We're seeing the rapid development and adoption of Layer 2 solutions like Polygon. These sit on top of blockchains like Ethereum and are designed specifically to handle transactions faster and much, much cheaper. And you also have newer alternative blockchains like Solana or Flow, which were built from the ground up for higher speed and lower costs. These advancements are making the whole process much smoother, much more accessible for the average person. The goal is to make the tech almost invisible.
That's key for mainstream adoption, I'd imagine. But what about security risks? We hear about hacks, scams, things like rug pulls, where a project just disappears with the money.
Yeah, security vulnerabilities and scams are a real concern, and users need to be cautious. There have been incidents like smart contract exploits or projects like Anaran that turned out to be scams, the infamous rug pull.
So it's risky.
There are risks, as with any emerging financial technology, but the industry is putting a huge emphasis on security. Smart contracts are being audited more rigorously, platforms are implementing better safeguards, and player education about doing your own research, due diligence, is crucial. The ecosystem is constantly learning and improving its defenses, but yeah, caution is still important.
And then there's the whole regulatory side of things. Seems like governments are still figuring out how to handle crypto and NFTs.
That's right. Regulatory uncertainty is definitely a factor. Rules vary hugely from country to country. There are ongoing questions about whether certain tokens or NFTs might be classified as securities, which has implications for how they can be sold and traded.
So it's still a bit of a gray area.
It is, but again, that's pretty normal for a disruptive new industry. There's ongoing dialogue between the industry, regulators, and governments to establish clearer frameworks. Clarity will come over time, and that will help foster more stable long-term growth.
Okay, so challenges are being tackled. Looking forward then, crystal ball time. What does the future hold? Where is blockchain gaming heading, and what needs to happen for it to really hit the mainstream?
Well, the tech advancements will just keep rolling. Layer 2s will get even better, new blockchains optimized for gaming will emerge, and those interoperability protocols we talked about, allowing assets to move between games, will become more sophisticated. All this makes the experience better, faster, cheaper, more seamless for players.
And what's the tipping point for mainstream adoption? What gets everyone, not just the early tech enthusiasts, involved?
I think it's a few things. First, simplifying that onboarding process, making it super easy to set up a wallet, get started, maybe even hiding the crypto complexity altogether initially. Second, and maybe most importantly, is a relentless focus on fun. The games themselves have to be high-quality, engaging, compelling experiences first and foremost. The earning potential is great, but it can't be the only hook.
Gameplay overgrind, essentially.
Exactly. And third, I think crucial partnerships with established traditional gaming studios will be key. We're seeing explorations there, like with the Electronic Arts or Animoca brands partnering with others. That helps build bridges, brings legitimacy, and introduces these concepts to a massive existing player base.
Makes sense. Are there any really cool emerging trends or opportunities on the horizon that have you excited?
Oh yeah, lots. We
Yeah.
might see more learn-to-earn models where educational games actually reward you for acquiring knowledge. Imagine that. There's fascinating potential in player-owned AI-generated content. And think about game worlds or quests, created partly by AI but owned and directed by players via NFTs.
Wow.
And then you have these physical-digital hybrids. Step one was an early example, linking real-world exercise tracked by your phone to crypto rewards. More integration between our physical lives and digital ownership.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, I think blockchain games will be absolutely foundational to the metaverse as it evolves. They'll provide the economic engines, the social hubs, the true ownership layer for these immersive virtual worlds. The potential is just enormous.
It really is an incredible journey we're witnessing, this merging of crypto, blockchain, and gaming. It feels like a truly monumental shift. It's creating opportunities we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago for both players and developers.
Absolutely. And while, yes, there are challenges still being worked through, the direction is incredibly exciting. It really holds the promise of democratizing game economies, empowering players worldwide, and making our digital interactions potentially more fair, more open, and ultimately more rewarding.
Which leaves us and you listening with a really interesting thought to ponder. As this idea of truly owning things in digital worlds becomes more real, more tangible, how might that start to change our relationship with digital assets in general, even how we think about value itself in the real world? Something to definitely keep in mind as we all continue to watch and participate in the evolution of gaming and digital technology.